Hello, everyone. I'm Tyler Rosado, and this is the DIVA Checkpoint. This is your go to stop for bold insights, big vision, and real action from leaders across Circle K International. Each episode, my guests and I unpack what's happening, what's next, and how we're showing up to lead, with plenty of fun and maybe a little drama along the way. Without further ado, let's get into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the DIVA Checkpoint Season 2. I cannot believe we are already on episode 6 of Season 2. This is so insane, but I'm excited to have you back nonetheless. We have a very exciting episode for you this week, but before I get into it, I want to give you a quick update about next week's episode, which will be a district convention recap / behind the scenes look at one of our most signature events in Circle K International, which is our district conventions. I give you this preface because at the time of recording this episode today, we had not held our district convention yet, but our guest for today actually ran for a campaign and is currently our governor-elect. I'm talking about William Townsend. Will is the current president for the NCCU chapter of Circle K International. Hailing from Raleigh, North Carolina, Will has been dedicated to service from a very young age. He frequently fed meals to the homeless and worked at food banks. During high school, he used journalism work to advocate for others in his community on a variety of issues. This seamlessly translated to NCCU as he was able to become a member of CKI his freshman year, and then jumping into the president's role after becoming friends with a mentor, Jonathan Hicks, who's our current lieutenant governor. He has championed several programs at NCCU in his time as president and is hoping for several more. It's so exciting to have this guest on, especially given the circumstance that he won his election for governor, which of course we did not know at the time of recording this, but I just wanted to give a bit of context around the conversation. I'm so excited to share this with you, and of course, look forward to next week as well, where we will be diving way more into our district convention. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Hello, Will. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I wish I had on some CKI gear, honestly, but it's a little bit too cold for a t-shirt. I don't know.
Yeah. At the time we're recording this, we just got tons of snow here in the Carolinas. I think a few inches here and there in our respective universities, and I've heard down in South Carolina there was a bunch, and out towards ECU as well. So I'm really glad that you're able to join me, all things considered. And I think we're gonna have a really exciting conversation here. Just to start off, tell me a little bit of your CKI journey in terms of how you found out about our organization and how you got involved.
So I'll honestly say that it was very spontaneous, or at least it was not something that I foresaw becoming kind of part of the thing I was leaving behind at Central. When I first got to Central, I came in through a scholarship program, and through that scholarship program, I was able to meet several amount of people. But the main person I was able to meet is Miss Jamie Eaton, who is the advisor for CKI, but also the advisor over the honors program a little bit as well. And she was just telling me about the experience to join CKI on campus. It was new and coming. And I also got to meet Jonathan Hicks, who was the former president. And he was saying how needed a couple more black males in the program as well. And also just how it was a good opportunity to get service. So I was like, why not? Let me join CKI. When I heard the $40 dues, I was a little weary at first, but I did definitely join the cause because, again, most of my life I've been dedicated to service, and I'll also say most of my life it's just been a main focal point. So either way, first year going into CKI, I try to make events as best as I can. I was kind of busy, but I try to make my events as best as I can. And I'll really just fast forward to the point of second semester of freshman year. I went to the interest meeting that they had again just to kind of show face and see everything. And I saw that they were looking for e-board positions. Now, I definitely didn't sign the QR code that John had up there for interest in the e-board positions, but I definitely took it a note. And also earlier in the year, I had joined the freshman, I joined the University Honors Program Honors Council as a freshman class representative. And so John was up there as a community service chair. So again, going to events and stuff like that, I got to know him, talk to him more. And I remember one specific moment of us riding in a car to an event. It was just me and him. We were talking about a lot of stuff. And I just straight up asked him, I was like, how do you found somebody to run the program next year? And he was like, no, not at all. I'm trying. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Mind you, I didn't say anything about taking it, anything like that. And about 2 minutes later, he's like, if you do it, I'll write you a whole succession plan. Please, Will, please, Will. And I was like, let me get back to you. Let me get back to you. Honestly, just let me get back to you. I don't know. But of course, we see where I am today. So I again work with John to start the process of him turning over the presidency to me as he was graduating, which again I'm really appreciative of him for. And then just fast forward a little bit, going to LeadCon, seeing everything how it was run. Like I didn't understand it was so serious. Like, of course I saw Kiwanis. I don't really think my school in Raleigh didn't really get me involved with Key Club. I went to Southeast Raleigh or anything like that, but I didn't know how like I guess serious or how importance of Kiwanis and Circle K International and Key Club all those were. So going to LeadCon definitely propelled that for me and also showed me it was something I needed to take seriously and something I needed to be on my end game for and definitely be a leader in general. So meeting you, I met you, Miss Hethcox, so many more from CKI of all over. And then definitely going into the next year, I was able to build my team. I did interviews. I may have enlisted a couple of friends, but in those friends, I know that they were hard workers as well. So I got to the point where we were able to get my team by about mid-June and we were full sail working on what to do, working on certain ideas. And we kind of made it to the August part of the year, and we were full sail from then. It felt like I was getting hit with opportunity, opportunity here, opportunity there for the mentorship programs that we'll talk about later down the line. Working in environmental work, working with senior citizens, so many different facets. I was kind of overwhelmed, but I had a great team to hold me down, to hold me back. So through that, I was able to propel, do different experiences, and we've been successful. I think it might not all be documented under CKI, but we've been able to do a bunch of initiatives last semester, probably mostly seen through social media or other avenues in that juncture. And yeah, it kind of leads me all to where I am today.
Amazing. And yes, Lieutenant Governor Jonathan, who helped charter the club at Central, I think he has a similar story of kind of being tapped on the shoulder of like, hey, we need help. We had an open lieutenant governor position, which we pulled him into, and he really did a tremendous job with getting the club together. It sounds just like him that he'd put together a whole secession plan. And I think that is a great tip for people listening to have those plans in motion for whoever your next in line is, because I'm sure you can talk about how, that was a great place to start and a great foundation. But of course, you are your own person and your own president. So walk me through it a little bit of taking a succession plan, using that as a foundation, but then really putting your own spin on things and making it your own.
Absolutely. I just knew I had to hit my checkpoints. I just had to set the foundation. The foundation was a succession plan, but it was adding my own funk to it, my own twist, my own different narratives, my different ideas. One of the biggest things I'm big on is passion projects and also things that people find in people's interest. Because in my eyes, if I'm not interested, it's just not something I'm gonna want to do. Now, most of the time, I will put my head down and work towards it anyway. But I feel like the best things come out of some things that we are already interested in. So I just made sure to kind of nurture the succession plan into my future plans. I'll just say in general as a whole, whether that means reaching out to new partners. I wanted to make sure our outreach was bigger. That's one of the big things is making sure our outreach was bigger on campus. Um, and I say this as a joke to a lot of my e-board members and general body members. I was trying to build a premier organization, a premier service organization at North Carolina Central University, which is already based in truth and service, which there was some heavy hitters, but I think that people failed to see the amount of opportunities that were out there and the amount of outreach that we could get if we all come together in community, collaborate, and connection as well. So just in general, um, focusing on outreach and focusing as using this year as our stepping stool to become a face. Honestly, that was a big thing, whether that's through social media, through our partnerships on campus and off campus. That was the main thing, building off the succession plan and building off what was set in the past and knowing that you can use it, but it's also good to build your own path.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's safe to say I love the phrasing you use of the premier service organization, because I think that is a testament to having leadership that can see the vision and can set vision that, we're not only going to do service, we're not only going to run this organization, but we're trying to elevate it to be the premier service organization. And I think having that vision clearly has paid off with the amazing things we've seen come out of Central, and your club. And, the first time you and I met was at the NC State Boys and Girls Club Spring Field Day, and it's all about working with youth. And it's one of my favorite partners that my club has is the Boys and Girls Club of Raleigh, because we get to work with youth and really give back into those core principles of Kiwanis as a whole, right? With the whole Kids Need Kiwanis initiative. And so I want you to talk a little bit about the mentoring program that you have out of Central, because it really is, I think, one of my favorite things outside of my own club that I'm just hearing about as governor, and I want to see it replicated everywhere. So I want to know all the details.
Absolutely. That is a lot to dive into. I will backtrack really quickly. Again, I loved working at the NC State CKI with the Boys and Girls Club. That Boys and Girls Club itself is it just means so much to me because that's where my sisters went growing up. And I just remember being in that building so many times. So to get to be back in that space, especially showing that, seeing the leadership from everybody in that room was beautiful. That was just something I wanted to say really briefly, but I'll get into the mentoring program as well. The mentoring programs are honestly something we really hold down. I'm going to quickly spotlight our partners, Ms. Chantel Cassels at Fayetteville Street Elementary and Ms. Cherokee McAdoo, because they're the reason we have them. They're the community schools in general that we work with. So community schools pretty much are schools that not just service the students, but they service the families, the people around, everybody in the whole community as a whole. So not only while we focus on the mentorship programs, we build drives, we build so many other initiatives set around focusing on the community, whether it's digital literacy or anything like that. There's so many programming opportunities under the umbrella that can be touched on when you're working in just a community and not just a school. But the actual mentoring programs themselves are beautiful. I'll say that right now we're housing about, I believe, 95 to 100 mentors over two schools. I'll quickly talk about New Hope Elementary. Last year, I'm pretty sure John created the partnership with Miss McAdoo, and this year was a continuation. And through that, students, I love my mentor. I like to say that my mentor's name is Favor. We read, we play basketball. I have a big emphasis on reading because reading is one of my loves, but making sure he's known that he's loved, and also like we're here for them. But overall, mentorship programs are important, especially because not a lot of people can see themselves. The schools we work with are dominated by minorities, in general, and that's Central is a minority in a majority situation. So us being able to leave our footprints on those places where minorities need it, and also can receive it is big. I'll say in setting up mentorship programs, definitely just got to find your partner school. And even in finding your partner school, you definitely do want to see what they need and can your club provide that? Or will your club's demographic work with this school? I mean, it's just so many uh kind of, I wouldn't even say they're obstacles, but there's things to think about when creating a successful mentorship program. But the first thing I would say is making sure you're establishing a partnership and strong partnership with that school. Because not only that, not only do you have the mentorship program, but there's so much programming inside of those schools. Again, that's probably going to be my diva moment, but I'll talk about the pumpkin painting real quick. That's a quick program that you get to do just because you have a mentorship program there. And so many other spotlights and so many other things get to shine when you have the mentorship program that is not just a mentorship program. But yeah,
Yeah, and I love focusing on the fact that, you're working in these schools, you've made these connections to kind of set up these lines of service through the mentorship program, and talking about how it can look like a bunch of different things and it touches on a bunch of different things. I think the biggest incentive for our clubs and other, whether it's key clubs or even Kiwanis clubs listening, to establish those connections with schools, Boys and Girls Club, after school programming, things like that, really is the fact that there are so many things that a child needs in order to achieve success. And you might be able to check off some boxes, but there's usually something you can find where there's opportunity to give, right? I think, we immediately think about, is the child fed? Is the child clothed? And you can check those boxes. But especially, representation, I think, is a big thing. And showing students that their success is just as possible as someone else, that it's not just a story they hear about, it's something that is within their grasp to achieve. I think that is super important. I love hearing that that is what's happening through your initiative. Tell me a little bit about what you're studying at Central and how you've been able to kind of gain some skills from your time, whether it's through the mentorship program or just by leading your club in general at Central.
yes. I am a business marketing and political science double major. And I do plan to go into law school after I graduate. But overall, being both of those majors allows me to kind of throw a whole bunch of my interests together. Business, of course, being able to be a leader, being able to manage people, being able to effectively market, being able to draw in crowds. That's something that we focus on heavy here. Like I said, my whole spiel about outreach earlier, that's huge to me, and that's all marketing. Most of that stuff, we had about 20 to 25 people come to a transfer freshman informational in the snow recently. I don't think they would come if it wasn't marketed well or we didn't have great marketing in the past. So stuff like that matters. The political science realm, it encompasses all of the advocacy, social work kind of work that we do. That work is important to me. Again, that work I've been doing since for about 7 years. I've been kind of working in the public health-ish, not seven, that's a stretch. 6 years, we've been working about the public health route. All of this is public health. All of this is social work to a certain extent. So being able to combine those two in those, I really think I'm maximizing both majors under the umbrella of Circle K International.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that all it encompasses so many different things. And I think at the end of the day, what might be the through line through all of that is just that interaction with the community and connecting with the people that you are experiencing life through this, right? That, whether it's like you touched on the social work component, a public health component, all of these things are so people based. And I think that is something that, the typical college student, removing any extracurricular activities and, high impact experiences, can sometimes be lost. So tell me a little bit about, it can be from yourself, but even maybe some of your e-board members or general body members, about experiences that you've been able to just have that make you feel more connected to the campus or the community beyond just the classroom and the studies.
Mm. There are a bunch of moments, I can't lie. I'll say definitely, I'm going to speak on a couple here, but our first interest meeting, that room was insanely full. I didn't expect it to be like that, get like that. Yeah, just going off of what we had done in the past year, we were definitely trending up, but it just kind of felt like a boom, shot. We shot up, and just the interest on campus was big. Another moment I'll speak about community-wise was going to film and shoot the video for our Fayetteville Street Mentorship Program. We were able to get it to push it on even the North Carolina Central University's main page. And moments like that are just so special to me. Going in there, uh, what's that? Arm wrestling with the kids. Talking to them about certain stuff. They're joking on one of my friends. Moments like that specifically are kind of tailored into what I core memories. A lot of the focus on the programs that I try to do and the passion projects and interests that I try to do is making something that even I didn't get to do as a kid, or even if you're underprivileged, privileged, any type of whatever you came from, making memories that not everybody gets to do. Like I don't think I would ever be able to do that in a regular Wake County school setting. That just wasn't happening. A lot of the initiatives we do. Um, and then yes, I'm not going to spoil the pumpkin painting right now, but there are multiple other events that we have. The Latin Heritage Festival at New Hope Elementary, like certain stuff like that. To a certain extent, it brings tears to my eyes because it's beautiful to see representation where I know back in spaces that I knew I was never going to see that. Um, so to be able to be there, to be able to get the Hispanic, Latino Hispanic organization on campus to come out there and support as well, perform, all that. It's just what we can do. We don't know. We don't understand what we can do through connection and that collaboration in general. So overall, there's been so many moments where it's like honestly a tearjerker or even just a wow, I do not understand the impact. But because honestly, when it comes to these type of actions, you never understand the impact when you're in the moment.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I really love touching on the fact that sometimes we're providing experiences, opportunities, moments that we weren't necessarily afforded, right? I think um, for many folks, getting to a higher ed position as a student or even, you know, further on down the line, graduate school, or even those who later get employed, there it's that those moments where you're finding community maybe for the first time, and you're finding mentors and you're finding like-minded peers. And so I think what's amazing is that we in this organization have the opportunity to find that, but then also give it back and pay it forward so that, these students, they don't have to wait 10, 20 years to find the opportunities we're finding now. They can also find the connections, they can find the support. I think that's really amazing. And of course, I think in our organization where we have clubs in the elementary school, in the middle school, high school, and then you get to Circle K at college, we talk a lot about how we can kind of keep a Kiwanis pipeline going, getting people to start young and stay with our clubs all throughout, service throughout your whole lifetime. I think that's a great and amazing. But of course, we have tons and tons of people who join us, whether it's in high school and Key Club, now in CKI, or even if they don't find any of these SLPs and they go straight to Kiwanis. And they're able to provide really amazing things to their clubs, and you were definitely included in that. And so I want to kind of pick your brain a little bit for people listening. What are some ways that we can approach recruiting folks and really retaining folks? I think is the biggest thing. If they're not necessarily coming because they were in Key Club and so now they want to join CKI or something like that, what are your tips for recruiting those kind of members?
I think in anything, honestly, people need incentives. Matter of fact is, it's almost human nature that people are not going to do something without the return of something else. Pretty much return on investment, ROI. But I say incentives. I know it is a lot easier. I understand it's a lot easier at Central to get members than it would be at NC State because I don't believe y'all require service hours.
Mm-mm, yeah, we don't.
Yeah, that's literally a built-in incentive. Um, so I guess really just finding people who are on your cause. I mean, certain majors or even certain people who just show similar interest. I definitely say look to your counterparts, look to your other organizations that are doing kind of similar things and seeing what you can kind of take, mirror, or kind of flip around. But definitely the big thing I would hone on is incentives because nine times out of ten, people are going to want something to do something. But there are those people out there who live service to their heart. So your social work majors, your public health majors, your teaching majors, your education majors. And many so I'd say kind of know who your target audience is, know what niches they have, and then maybe incentivize and capitalize that. Um, I definitely read some of your stuff and I loved how you talked about professional development for future on. So I'd say that is a big incentive or making sure people know that through CKI, through Kiwanis, through Key Club, there's so many opportunities to kind of expand your network, expand your connections, and also expand your experiences. Because experiences, again, is a very important thing in all of this. So I'd say really just honing in on experiences, incentives, and also don't be afraid to copy what you see if it's working.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is something that sometimes we have to have a shift in mindset on, especially for some of our clubs. I think it's easy to really hyper focus on our service component of the organization because that is our primary objective. However, fellowship and leadership development and professional development, those all are other key components of our organization that are equally important. And I think those are the two biggest things that people kind of get when you talk about that return on investment from joining our club, paying those dues, right? They get the opportunity to lead a club like yourself or be part of your e-board or even just in organizing different events. You know, they gain those leadership skills and then having a network of different people. I mean, you've already pointed to Jonathan as a great connection you've made kind of through this organization. And I'm sure you have plenty more. We probably don't have time to talk about all of them today. But I think those are some really great points. Talk to me a little bit about, I know we mentioned the requirement that NC Central has for service hours. And so on a surface level, that might look like a simple advantage to get members and that's maybe a built-in incentive, but I from an outside perspective, I can tell that there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes to really make the club more than just, a place for students to go check off their service requirement. And I think that the biggest testament to that is the way you collaborate with the wider university and through the honors program. And so I'd love for you to talk a little bit about how you can do that because even though like you mentioned NC State doesn't have this requirement or other universities may not, there are other organizations on campus and the campuses themselves, the colleges that I think would be open to having a collaborative relationship with our clubs like this if the work was kind of put in. So point me in the right direction. What does that look like behind the scenes with your leadership team and how you work with the partners like in your campus?
I'll say definitely. I love bragging about them. They are an amazing team. I wouldn't say we went through strenuous work to pick them, but they are definitely people I hold near to my heart. And also, I'll say that in my e-boards or the e-boards that I like to participate on, I like it to be family oriented. I like it to be goofy. I like it to be serious but unserious. I'll say that something I tell them is I'm gonna always laugh unless things aren't getting done. Then it gets a little bit more serious. But I think my e-board does a great job in collaboration. I believe collaboration would be the key to a lot of things in this world, but also just on this scope. Not anybody is too good for a job. People sometimes even step outside of their role to make sure something gets done. There are times where our PR needs help. So I'm calling somebody like, oh yes, I can do a video here. Oh yes, I can do something here, near there. Um, I ask my e-board all the time what passions, what things they want to focus on. We have a STEM project coming up because one of our e-board members is a geothermal spaces major. So just kind of finding what they like and how we can collaborate allows us to then further on see where we have on campus. And our whole thing has been gaining outreach. So e-board members were selected purposefully to maximize outreach, to oh, we don't have a STEM major. Oh, we don't have a nursing major. We don't have a pre-med major. We don't have a sports medicine. We don't have a business. Let's get that. Let's find that. Let's find these people in these spaces. But then on top of that, let's outreach these spaces. Let's get into these spaces. Let's see how we can incorporate those spaces into service. Service isn't picking up trash. Service isn't just picking up trash. Service can be, how do I teach X group to do this? That can be service. There's so many avenues in that I feel like we don't reach, or we kind of limit what is service in our heads. And through my e-board, I've been able to collaborate and see that. And then even through the general body, I extend that same passion project, same interest thing to my general body as well. If you want to do it, I'm gonna try my best to make sure it gets done. But on top of that, focusing on the original question, just collaborating overall has been a lot easier due to the fact of successful ones in the past, but also showing that you can collaborate service with fun. You can collaborate service with seriousness. You can collaborate service with anything because service is, I think it's unquantifiable. I think service is not linear. Service is anything you want it to be, honestly. It's just making a difference.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think your leadership in your position, as well as all of the things that are coming out of Central, have really just gone to show that those efforts and that collaboration, it really pays off. And I want to switch gears a little bit here. I think we've been talking a lot about and getting some great tips for folks running their clubs and who are at the club level. But you are in the process at the time of recording of throwing your hat in the ring to potentially being part of our district board. And so, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about what that decision process has been in terms of how do you feel comfortable in potentially making the leap should you be elected. As someone who was a club president before I got this position as governor and was elected to this position, there's definitely a before you were like okay with the idea and then an after. So tell me a little bit about that process for you.
I'll just, again, it's going to all go back to you. I'm going to be honest. Um, the first time I even met you, you said something along the lines of, you might follow my same pathway. And not only did that stick with me, it made me see that it was actually possible. And then seeing the amazing things you were doing at the district level also made me see that that was possible. At first, my initial kind of progression was maybe do this 2 years and then jump. But from the feedback I've heard and from also what I think would be amazing for me professionally with my network, all those other things, it was just like why not? Just go do it, Will. It's okay. Um, it definitely was like, I wasn't necessarily quote unquote ready, or in my head, I didn't think I was necessarily ready or up to the task. I thought maybe I had to do my time, but hey, I don't know my time all the time. The time isn't in my hands all the time. So what I can say was it definitely was something that I wouldn't say I was necessarily always open to, but I knew it was something I wanted to do in the grand scheme of Circle K International. And I knew it was something I could do due to people before me and also the values that I exhibit.
Yeah, well, and I'm flattered to hear that I had some impact there because I remember kind of having the idea put before me before I thought I was ready, and it not really clicking, but then suddenly it does, where you're like, maybe I can do this. And so, of course, um, wishing you the best of luck in February at our district convention. So excited, especially since this will be your first district convention. But you have attended other Carolinas district events. We talked about LeeCon, and we talked about, or we haven't talked about our service event this past fall. But tell me, just between these different district events, what is something that has stood out to you about meeting people outside of your NC Central CKI club?
It's so different. Honestly, since being in high school and being in college, I have not been surrounded by that many other groups of people at time. Whether that be by race, personality, or any of those other factors, I just haven't that much. So coming at it with certain it changes your mindset a little bit. I'll say that at first. But it also is like, wow, this is a different space, different people. I'm excited to be here. I love the opportunities that I was afforded. But just understanding this is an interesting space. But the people are great. The people are dedicated like me. The people have their reasons for being in CKI. The people have the reasons that they are dedicated to service. So seeing while they might be different in certain qualities, we're all like-minded. It's something I can really appreciate, whether that be at interclub events or fall call, which again me and the people I took had a blast. Just so you know, um, it has been amazing to see like-minded people when it comes to service because not always does somebody share the same passion for the level of service that we do.
Absolutely. I think that is a very true statement, especially given, the times we live in, the circumstances we have. It's apparent that not everybody is, thinking about others in times of crisis or thinking about how they can give back. But I think that it is true that everyone who joins our organization and is committed to our organization does think about others and does think about giving back. And it really is a fulfilling way to spend your time and a fulfilling group of people to be around for solely that purpose, because there are tons of different folks from tons of different walks of life that I never would have met had I not joined. And it sounds like you're sharing in that experience. So I'm glad to hear it. I don't want to hold you for too long, so I will ask you the question that I ask all of my guests, and that is for your biggest diva moment that you've experienced, something big and bold, a memory, a story that you can share from your time in CKI.
Okay, okay. I've been waiting for it, and you know what I want to talk about. Of course, I want to talk about our pumpkin painting event at Fable Street Elementary. And not only do I want to just talk about it, I want to give the full story on it. So originally, the pumpkin painting event was supposed to be, I wouldn't say smaller, but our coordinator, we had a general, no, we had an e-board meeting and we drew up the idea of having the pumpkin painting event. We thought it was going to be maybe a smaller thing at the school at Central. We paint them and then take them over there as like decorations. But when I told Ms. Casellas, she said no. We wanted to have it at the school and for as many students as possible. So I'm like, okay, maybe we can support 50 to 100 students. She said, I want to do the whole school. And I said, I love it. I love it. While I loved it, my e-board, even my advisor was like, you're crazy. You're crazy. You are not about to get 250 pumpkins in a month. And I said, watch me. Watch, not only watch me, but is going to be successful and everybody's going to enjoy it. And I'll say maybe some of them started to believe. And I am a person who sets very lofty expectations, and I am a person who can be seen as prideful. So it wasn't out of the norm for me to be like, I can do something like this. But as they saw, um, it happened. But I'll say the real diva baddie moment, I did feel like a baddie when doing this, is when I had to go out to the pumpkin field in I think a day or two before in the pouring rain. It was 30 degrees, and I picked up about 40 pumpkins by hand, put them in a wagon, and put them in my car, and took them back. Now, Miss Cassell's went and got the rest, but my hands were freezing. I remember taking some pictures to like document it and also be like, hey, they better love these pumpkins. But I know they will. I know they'll have a great time. And that was kind of the diva moment of that. But overall, the pumpkin painting event worked amazingly. We donated 250 pumpkins. Every kid got a pumpkin. Every kid took one home. Every kid painted one. Um, it was wild in there. I definitely got put in the K through 2, and I wouldn't say that's my favorite group, but it was the group I was placed in, and it was very hectic. But I do understand it. It was beautiful to watch them all paint their pumpkins. Some were good looking, some weren't, but the kids, they understood it. They loved the whole the process. And that was a memory that we could afford them that not many kids get around the globe.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I think, you know, there's always a step up in our service that we can take, and sometimes it just takes that one person to say, you know what? Sure, it's crazy. Sure, it might, we might end up in the freezing rain picking up pumpkins, but we're going to ensure every kid gets a pumpkin. That's the true spirit of CKI, and I think that is an amazing diva moment, baddie moment to share. Um, that is amazing. Thank you so much for being on the podcast with me and sharing just a bit of the things going on at Central and also the amazing work you guys are doing over there. I do wish you the best of luck on all your future endeavors, and I'm sure we will see many more amazing things coming from you and your club. Otherwise, thanks again for being on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you so much as well. I knew it was coming, but I'm glad to be on it. I'm glad to be able to share my perspectives, share what's out there about Central and CKI, and just shed light to a newer program.
Amazing. Well, you take care. Thanks for tuning in to the DIVA Checkpoint podcast with me, Tyler Rosado. For more episodes, be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And hey, if you've got something to say, we want you to be a guest on our show. Head over to bit.ly/CKI podcast for more information. Until next time, keep leading loud, CKI.